Hi friends, foes and countrymen. This is me biting the bullet. I've noticed hang on, move the camera a bit, sorry. Anyway, I've noticed a few people responding to Sharon Gale, Swiston, Latter, etc. And Nikki Cooper, whose work I respect, said, oh, Angie takes it on the chin because she's scared. And that's probably got more of a rise out of me than the ongoing abuse from Sharon Gale, which gets swiftly deleted each morning after a drunken, abusive live stream. And there are people that download them before she takes them down, so I'm glad about that. If I'd prepared for this, I was going to show a video. I'll try and put it in the description box. A video where Sharon is admitting that her marriage to the father of baby Charlotte was a legal tactic, and that she wonders if her husband was guilty and maybe she was wrong to support him. That video's out there, and I meant, like I said, I'm just coming and making this because, you know, some people say, oh, you never go live, and like, I do like to be organised, and I do like to focus for the most part on journalism. So first of all, this is a shout out to Rosie Waterhouse, who has previously been in touch with Sharon and indeed emailed her early on in Sharon's YouTube career, begging her to not drunk stream. And Sharon just blew her off and said, oh, she can mind her own business, whatever. But I was shocked to see Rosie Waterhouse write a very pro-establishment, uninvestigated narrative for the Times after the Wilfred Wong trial. And even more alarmed to see her saying at the end of it, the child is soon to be reunited with the poor father, you know, so shades of Ricky Dearman all over again in the BBC interview with Victoria Derbyshire. So I'm just going to do a no holds barred because Nikki said I was scared, and that's not usually what I am. Sharon Gale occasionally alarms me, you know, and I just have to process it. It's like feel the fear and do it anyway kind of thing. So that's what I'm doing. I want to give a synopsis. I wanted to say to Rosie Waterhouse first, you know, if you want to know why I'm reporting on the Wong case, I haven't spoken to Wilfred Wong, but 4 of the 8 people arrested have had friends and family contact myself and Andy Devine, including the mother's family, and the evidence they've sent thus far has been utterly shocking and indicated a completely different narrative to the one portrayed via the secret family court, then the denoticed trial, then the restricted media coverage. So this is to Rosie Waterhouse, if Sharon's telling the truth, which is often 50-50, but if she's telling the truth that somebody in the mainstream media's contacted me for the story on APD, you know, that's likely to be Rosie Waterhouse. If it is Rosie, get in touch, angiepoweredisney@gmail.com, or Twitter, angiepowereddisney without the Y on the end, Facebook, Angela Teresa Power Disney, any number of ways. I'd be happy to talk to you. You know, it wasn't my first published article, but my first mainstream published article was in the Irish Times. So, you know, I'm semi-retired now, but I'd still be happy to talk to you if you want to know why am I covering the Wilfred Wong case, particularly from the mother of the child's perspective and her parts of her 400-page evidence bundle, which she managed to get to Germany before the alleged rescue of her own son, which has since been deemed a kidnapping, and she's in jail for 15 years. As are the others, except for the one who committed suicide, allegedly, in prison. And I don't think that's had nearly enough coverage either. With regard to Sharon's outburst, well, it's an ongoing drip thing with me. She bullies me and defames me and, you know, abuses me online ongoingly. And for the most part, I just think, oh, whatever, you know. Occasionally she gets braver. It's ridiculous, the videos she's putting up where she shares videos and speeds them up, thinks she's dodging copyright, and you can't understand a word of what's being said. It's ridiculous. But what's more sad is the drunken live streams. She intimated that she had told this mainstream media reporter that emailed her that I had been a part of targeting her regarding baby Charlotte's death. Not at all. In fact, I highlighted that there was a big case in Ireland of a mother who had 2 children taken with broken bones at a young age, and that mother spent 10 grand or more proving that her children had a medical condition which causes multiple fractures. Now, I've just contacted that mother today and said, can you send me the name of the medical condition and any links you've got? Because I always like to think there's a better reason than 2 abusive parents inflicting those injuries. I think what's established is Sharon's argument that baby Charlotte died from vaccine damage with 32 fractures. I think we all accept that's not factual or plausible. And as I say, I will share a video where Sharon breaks down and talks to somebody on a live, since deleted, but somebody ripped it, where she says, maybe I shouldn't have supported my husband and he only married me because of the case. And she later says that the rule where a husband and wife can't testify against each other, which seems to be what she's admitting was why they married, she was implying last week that that was changed in her trial, that the first time ever the precedent was changed over whether husbands and wives could testify against each other. But I'm going to just recap. So Rosie Waterhouse, if you want to know why I'm covering the Wilfred One case or anything about that, I'd be more than happy to speak to you. But of course, it could be a fantasy. You know, whether or not Sharon flew to Ireland, I don't know. It could be a fantasy again. Still here. I think I told you I saw a comment. I lost track of my comments for a year around 2018, and it must have been earlier than that, because I found an old comment that said Angela Power Disney for jail 2017. I'm like, okay, it's 2021, and people conjecture, oh, she must be an Asian. She's the only one not in jail. Deal with a couple of other things first as well. People keep saying I walked Sabine into her jail sentence. Nothing could be further than the truth. I was mostly not active while I was raising my children. I made a conscious decision to do my best to raise my children well, and I didn't really get into activism until my youngest went off to college. That was around 2015. Yeah. I do bits and pieces. I do book reviews and local volunteer work and stuff like that before. And I did my own sort of diary of my own history and family and toxic family and all that. But I didn't really get into activism until 2015. So Sabine and Belinda and paedophiles like Terence Ewing and alleged paedophiles like MPs have been in this campaigning truther thing for decades. Sabine was hired as a Mackenzie friend by Ella for the children. She was later fired, but they made contact. Araya, ex-girlfriend of Abe and now buddies with Abe and Ella, she first of all approached Mumsy, Brenda McNamara. Brenda took an instant sort of red flag response and said, sorry, I'll turn that off. I'll deal with that in a while. Brenda said she had an aversion to Araya's presentation or whatever. Araya was obviously very hyped up and might have seemed aggressive, and so Mumsy backed off and said, "We'll go to Brian Gerrish or Bill Maloney." And they went to Brian Gerrish along with Sabine, I think, and he, of course, passed on the evidence to Bill Maloney, who passed it to John Wedger, and somehow it ended up back on DC Martin's desk twice. So that was a bit of a... Anyway, so Sabine, then Charlotte Ward set up the Hampstead Research Group. And Hoaxted Research is supposed to be the cover-up of that, the demolition of that. And to some extent, that they succeeded. That blog got so hacked, and the people running it got so harassed that they just retired. As I was going to, actually, before Dearman went back, put the children back on the international stage with the eBay videos. So, and then got me raided. So this is a rambling video, sorry about that, guys, but just bear with me. You can do it 1.2 or 1.25 or 1.5 speed if you like. Go to settings on YouTube, on the video. So Charlotte set up Hampstead Research, and then there was groups on Facebook, and groups all over the world saying, "We believe the children, let's help get the truth and fight for these children." And Sabine asked me to be the mouthpiece, like the PR person, to do the broadcasts. And I'd interview people and so on. A year after the first release of the video, so like March 2016, Rupert Quaintance, an American YouTuber, quite well known, made a anniversary video about the Hampstead case, and the group on Facebook, the secret sort of research group, said, "Look, somebody needs to get hold of him. He's got great editing skills, and just ask him if he'll help." So I volunteered. I said, "I'll Skype him," and I contacted him, and I did put a couple of grand into his trip over here. I think he raised in the end £5,000, maybe 7, I don't know. Poor lad ended up here for a year and then 4.5 months in jail. But the allegation I saw that somebody sent me, that I paid for him to go to London and break down doors, and I got him in jail and I got Sabine in jail, it's all bollocks. Sorry, it's bollocks. He came over, he went first to Italy and did some work for, I can't remember the guy's name. Then he went to Amsterdam for a month, and then he came to Lanzarote for a month. And then he went solo to London to do a documentary on the Hampstead allegations. And he is a red-blooded Virginian, from a family of gun owners and people that speak their mind. And he wasn't culturally aware of the British environment that he was coming into. So he would say things like, "Yeah, let's stop talking about it. Let's go break down some doors." It's a figure of speech. It was a figure of speech. He had death threats. I witnessed them. His mother had threats. The trolling campaign against him was shocking, even before he got to London. But we went separately. So just to finish the Sabine thing, she asked me to be spokesperson for the research and support campaign group, and I took that on. And then, I did a lot of on-the-ground investigating. I went and met people in different parts of England, stayed at people's homes. Really, really, I couldn't get over those children's disclosures. And I'm glad Dave Simpson is looking into it now. A lot of people come back and think, you know what, maybe it wasn't a hoax, and that's good, So nothing to do, Sabine had been in activism for decades. She asked me to be the spokesperson for the group, and I think the main reason she ended up in prison was because she had bad legal advice and she got scared. Like, fear really is the mind killer. Rupert, he went solo. he stayed with a friend, a fan of his from YouTube in South London. And he did his own coverage. We met once for filming outside Holborn Police Station. We met another time for filming at Belinda's. But Belinda she was very keen to handle him while he was in London. She became his handler, I would call it that. Rupert and I are still good friends. He's apologised to me. He's messaged me saying I'm a good friend. I can't do this right now. Oh God, I should take that call. I'll call him back, sorry. So Rupert and I stay in touch. He calls me a good friend. We communicate regularly. He's told me how he got sucked in, how he visited Shiva Burton and his response to that. And I know that under pressure, he also got scared. And if I was the fall guy, that's it. He and I are good friends. We laugh, sometimes cry, and always communicate. So this whole narrative about Rupert is bullshit. Next time I won't bring my phone in the cabin, or I'll put it on silent. So Rosie, get in touch with me if it is you, if Sharon's telling the truth, which she oftentimes is not, sadly, allegedly. And just to recap on, I have said I am aware there's a condition where multiple fractures can occur in young children, and it's a medical condition. And this person in Ireland that had a big court case about it, her children were returned and with huge apologies because she and her husband had been accused of gross child abuse, and it turned out both the children had this rare medical condition. So look, that looks like I'm giving Sharon Gale an out. No, I think she's got a lot to hide. I think she's been in multiple abusive relationships, very much evidenced from the deleted videos in Turkey. And all I did was highlight things, discrepancies, and basically as reaction to her ongoing abuse of me. She had told me about her second daughter being taken age 3 and now 6 or 7, and she hasn't had access for a year or so. She had told me drunkenly, I had to ask her to stop phoning me because the drunken phone calls were just horrendous and abusive. Always her phoning me. I don't think I ever phoned her once. So there's lots of lies. And then as it escalated, I was contacted by many people that have known her quite a while, including one very close to the child that was taken from her, age 3, the second little girl that she never mentions or rarely mentions. And she made allegations which I shared, such as that the police were called to Sharon's house when she was drunk and she held a knife to that child's throat to try and stop the police breaking into the house. If that's true, unsurprisingly, the child was removed from her care. She also told me she tried to flee the country with her boys, first to Spain and then to New Zealand, but social services followed her to both places. And she told me that Blake, who Sharon refers to, now 18, was removed from her care, age 7. That the older boy also grew up not with Sharon. So, the Sharon Gale presented compared to the Sharon Gale according to those around her is very different. I was horrified to hear her discussing her boys. I don't even want to, well, I will say it, discussing her boys' teenage masturbation habits on a live stream. Just inappropriate, awful, poor judgment and just awful. The wife of the Professor Martin Swiston, the father of the second child, little girl, contacted me and said, if she's using the name Swiston, unless she's adopted it by deed poll, my husband has committed bigamy because we're still married after 23 years. She said, I understood he'd had an affair in Bahrain But he told me it was over, and I took him back. And she said, so I know Sharon uses Swiston legally because I sent her a PayPal donation, and that was the name on her details to receive it. This was before I realised how toxic and vexatious, not vexatious, it's not a word, Shaz. Not vexatious, not a word, vexatious. But before I realised how toxic and abusive she would turn out to be. So we had the wife of Mr. Swiston, Professor Swiston, contact me, and we had the long-term friend who sent me 4 years of emails and photographs and evidence backing up her allegations that, sufficiently so that I felt okay to quote them as allegations. She said that, the apartment in Turkey belonged to Professor Swiston and he had allowed Sharon to use it. But I think once the live stream started going out with the Ali or whatever his name was, and violence and cocaine and weed and whatever, that might have explained why she suddenly was not in the apartment anymore and back in the £5 a night hotel. So that's all I did. If anything, I'm too kind saying, before we say somebody murdered the baby, let's just rule out that medical condition which can result in multiple fractures. I don't buy the vaccine story. I don't think anybody does. The other thing, the long-term friend of both Professor Swiston and Sharon, that was the other explosive thing she said, that Sharon's ex-husband had drugged and raped her and that she had been to the police about that, but they had said there was insufficient evidence to proceed. Pretty explosive. Mark Blatters, or Doug, or Mark, he goes by both names. His father's apparently military and probably Freemasons, I don't know, but very influential family. How the hell did both Sharon and he walk free from court because of insufficient evidence? The judge, in his summing up, said, I have no doubt that this baby was abused. So vaccines aren't going to fly with that, I don't think. And I'm very much, put it this way, I'm not pro-vaccines, but I don't think 32 fractures and any amount of vaccines go hand in hand. And as I say, I'll look for this video and I'll find it where Sharon expresses her own doubts and says maybe I shouldn't have covered up for my ex, pretty much. And there are those that believe with Sharon's alcohol problems, it may not all fall on the father. I don't know why I would have a baby upstairs crying not long after coming out of hospital, and I'd be downstairs cooking Sunday lunch in the kitchen with the older kids. There's a lot that doesn't add up, but I'm not interested enough in Sharon's life to dwell on that case, which is why I rarely mention her these days. And the baby's gone. So tragic as that is. The other thing I'd point out is that I personally, and I've seen a lot, have never seen any evidence of anybody saying they were going to dig up her baby. Please present it. Please present it. Because I've never seen that. I've heard you, I don't know, reel people in and play the victim card and sob and, they've got to dig my baby up. Who are these people? Can you just show some evidence of that, please? Sharon alleges she flew to Ireland under pressure from the Hampstead crew, whom she, either was groomed by or is part of, with, Danny Jones and Grobnob and all these different trolls, in her inner circle until she falls out with them too. So I do think the Baby Charlotte case should be reopened. I really do. if the legal authorities think that deems exhuming the baby, you know, legally and lawfully for further, you know, it's very unpleasant to think about. I wanted to get my sister's body exhumed, and it's a very traumatic thing to even contemplate. But I don't at the moment believe that anybody threatened to go and dig her baby up. So I'd like proof of that. I'd like Sharon, she's got 2 copyright strikes from me, not 1. She put a strike on my channel first, and I got it reversed, and the video was reinstated. Somebody else had the same video up, my video up, and they didn't get it reversed. For some, YouTube has a strange, you know, they might strike one channel for a video and leave it up on another. Who knows why that is. But yeah, so that's I do think the Baby Charlotte case needs reopening. I do think it's not good enough for a judge to say this 10-week-old baby died clearly abused, but I don't know by whom. I don't think that's really, you know, 5 million to the taxpayer, and that's the best you can come up with. But I know that by Sharon's admission herself, the family courts deemed both parents responsible and deemed Sharon as an unfit parent. I don't understand why the father subsequently got custody of the boys. I don't understand that, but it's not my business. So that's just setting the record straight. If Sharon has said to Rosie, Waterhouse, or any other mainstream media person, you know, Angie Power Disney nearly drove me to suicide over my baby. All I've done is bring testimonials from people that have known you for quite a while. And then there's the Callie Diamond on my BitChute from What Is Truth podcast before his channel got removed. Her testimony about Sharon's involvement with Sean Atwood and sex parties and so on. Well, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But as a semi-retired journalist, I don't feel bad about putting things out there and let the public judge for themselves, because Sharon's entire content is about judging people, having cost the British taxpayer, and she admits, probably more like 7 million. 5 million for the court case, and then probably at least another couple of million spent by social services, family courts, and chasing her around the world to take her children off her. So I'm glad they're back. Well, if they're glad they're back, I don't know if the youngsters disappeared again. The eldest one has looked embarrassed and angry on a couple of live streams that he's witnessed, and they know them. He actually called her YouTube channel a cult himself. Her own children called it that. But she seems to think that having cost the British taxpayer 7 million, she can then call people benefits cheats if they're disabled. It's surreal. It's bizarre. So I'm not afraid of Sharon Gale. I'll leave it at that. I am disgusted, to be honest. I am embarrassed. I am disgusted, and I am ongoingly suspicious of the real truth of baby Charlotte's death. I'll leave it at that for now, guys. I better call these people back. Yeah, if you have any reason to contact me, do. But I'm more concerned with children, and sadly, this baby is dead. This now 7-year-old is not in Sharon's care, and according to her, she hasn't seen her for at least a year, maybe 2. And the boys are old enough to make their own choices in life. I did when Sharon was getting really abusive towards me and lying and, just ridiculous allegations, I did get somebody to look on the electoral roll, and came up with the residents of her home, and went down some rabbit holes. But to be honest, she doesn't interest me enough for me to focus on it, other than just now and again, because Nikki said I'm scared of her. And I'd be honest as well, to end with it, when she says, oh, I'm in Ireland, I've just gone and made a statement. although Nikki and Brian say malicious communications doesn't fly, it's just the process is the punishment, like take all your gear and make you wait to see if there's going to be a court case and put you through stress, and then, all charges drop, no further action. But let's not forget that certainly around the Hampstead case and around VIP abuse as well, we have seen Sabine get 9 years, Rupert got 9 months, Allenson got 9 months, others got gagged, others got sectioned. Now they used harassment and stalking. Yeah. And I've always said, and I can say it, is that Matt Taylor was trying to expose corruption, including and especially in Sussex police, and a very clever tactic was the people he was trying to expose say, "Oh, he's stalking me, he's harassing me, he won't stop saying my name." No, what? That's not called harassment, that's called exposure. So things are not always as they seem. So that's it, guys. No doubt there'll be some backlash, but you know what? Grobnob, Nikki, and Brian have done response videos to Sharon, and I wasn't inclined to until Nikki said I was scared. I do get it, alarms me briefly until I talk to someone, including my grown sons, and they're like, "Mum, why do you ever believe anything that comes out of that woman's mouth? Why do you even give it a second thought?" So, she's like, "Oh, APD's going to get a knock on the door. But no, you got an email you say you got an email from a mainstream media person who's on my tail. Well, let them come and talk to me face to face. God bless people. And I don't know what else to say. I will say one more thing while we're having an honest chat. I kind of went soft. This is partly from dissociation. I forget, even if somebody local wrongs me, I forget, and then I think, right, I'm never speaking to that person again, and then I forget that I thought that to myself, and I'll greet them the next time I see them. And it's like, oh shit, I was angry with that person. Why did I just say hello? And I do dissociate from the awfulness of how some people have behaved. And I will say this, I've never quite done the closure on the Brian Harvey thing where he and I connected, and then I got bombarded with, "Don't you know this, and don't you know that, and look at the evidence here, and look at this, and look at that." And it didn't get handled very well, and it's never been properly resolved. I've been thrown out of groups because of Brian's response, calling me an agent and so on. But I don't bear him any malice, and I still err on the side of this guy's telling some serious truth, and he's persecuted. And seeing what he went through with that last attempted raid on his home with 20 coppers, including with battering rams and fire extinguishers, and just horrendous. And now that it's clear that that was at the hands of Andrew Guine, I'm sorry, I'm disgusted with that. That is an outrage to inflict that on somebody based on malicious communications. That both Puddick and Andrew Guine and Sharon Gale have been, in my opinion, very, very abusive of Brian Harvey. And what was the other? And I also kind of gave Sean Atwood a pass, saying I had unsubscribed and now resubscribed because he has some good guests. But actually now that, because it's a filter going through him, have you seen his Christmas party advert? Oh, come and win Christmas dinner with the Atwood mob. And they look like a mob of gangsters, including John Wedger in there. And Jen lying like a babe over the top of them. It's just something not right. There's something not right. There is a psyop going on in the truth community in the UK, just as I believe the Robert David Steele, Jerome Corsi, the hijacking of the Q thing. There's a psyop in America. There's also a psyop in the UK. to harness the truth coming out, particularly about SRA and child trafficking and so on, and make it look ridiculous. Just put people up out front as gatekeepers. That's the truth. So and Nikki, I did mention arts in embassies. I did share a lot of your work, and it's a shame that you know, it's a shame that it hit a brick wall in terms of me trying to do my best just to say, look, a lot of people are questioning Finchley Road stuff connected to Brian. Can we just look at that? So that's it for now, and God bless, and let's all try and stay sane during these crazy, crazy days. I don't want to see good people persecuted. And even bad people, I just want to see justice. Although I would never promote amnesty for paedophiles, ever.